And then I feel like this is all my fault because I had what I perceive, my opinion is a more suitable response to her. And I kind of like, I don't know, I'm not going to float my own boat. I know energy, I know mind, I know how she would have reacted to what I said and what I could present to her. And after like a few times of missing an opportunity, my software deleted it and it disappeared. And so I've been spending like the past 10 minutes trying to go off of what the ideas were, and it led up just like any good perspective or whatever, any whole gathering of perspectives and awareness, so that it leads up to where we were and reflects into where we can go. And it's like a map, basically. It's like a self-referencing, auto-aligning map. And that even, I keep doing this in this talk. That's like the energy that it has. And I get this a lot in, around certain people and things like that, where it seems like the information keeps leading back into reconfirming that information, like it just wants to be known or something. And that the map, if you can form in your mind and you can do that, you can begin to do it by recording what you said in a stream, basically the stream of consciousness, and using that to orient where it's going, and then move to more and more, progressed layers from there. And you get this like mountain of information where it's all referencing itself. And eventually, in time, when you do that, you get everything in existence. And we're kind of like in one of these layers going around. But the soul, I'm just going to go off on another point here. Sorry, HRS, I took your advice, but it's going to take a while. And I accept any help. But I'm working on it. I know there are like certain ideas, but I still have these points where I go through these memories and have to put everything into order. And it really does go. There's like databases of information. Somebody wrapped it up in a comment earlier, and this is what we all come to the conclusion of, is that there's a higher and lower realm, and in the lower realm there's like endless nightmares, and they're confusing. And that's basically why it's like in this place that's so confusing. And the way, if one is coming from where humanity is coming from, it gets real confusing. But the simple version is the higher and the lower, and the lower retains whatever it is, and it's the self. And all the lower, the higher and the lower is basically a reflection of not self. And then there's like this interplay of what we experience, and this kind of experience of doubt, self-doubt, or not knowing the self. And from there we get all the the layers, the spectrums of experience, and we learn from it, or it's like getting kicked in the face or something. And it's all through free will and choice. But the soul coming into the physical, what you could say the universe, because when we say the universe, we think of the big void space with particles in it. That's the physical plane. It seems like it has an outer and an inner. It's a plane. It's a concept within a multiple layers of frequency in a omniverse, or a creation, or a body, because it's really like a being, like how you have a higher and lower series of organ systems, some that process toxins out, some that take in and take what's good from there and chemically process them for absorption, some that work to generate this electromagnetic polarized flux of more subtle energies. You can't scoop up some electromagnetic brainwave stuff. You can get the brain, but you can't get the brain wave. I mean, technically you can. They have magnets and weird stuff like that. But it's so subtle, but that's where then perception comes from. And so then in that sense, we have the hard stuff everywhere. The soul then is what is so subtle in comparison or relation to everything that's hard, that you can't grab it, you can't draw it, you can't sense it with anything but the most refined ability to sense. And it's not sensing at that point, it's feeling, because it's not a chemical, biochemical, physical, polarized interaction of organizing what is happening. It's feeling and being. And skipping ahead is because it's you. So how do you not know you? Well, obviously you're looking in the wrong spot at a mirror at a wrong angle, and you're like seeing the ceiling or something. And all you have to do is look, directly straight. And there's all these, misnomers, because to look directly straight, you close your eyes and look behind you. It doesn't really, add up to look at it physically, but you can have these metaphors. The idea with the soul is that the information, the energy of the soul is pure awareness. There's no like outer, inner, it's just one big hunk of a pure awareness. And so when it comes into what we call the physical plane, it carries with it, it doesn't really carry with it, but it has an intention. The intention translates into a trajectory for all the physical essences in that experience of the soul being here. And that is basically what we call time, and what we call a trajectory of a civilization and a species. And what they found in the project is that there are people who or anyone really who doesn't have the soul level activated, they're kind of, it's like a boat at the mercy of the waters, the waves of time, and the winds, where it's kind of the reactory bobber getting pushed around by the source. But when there's a soul activated in the person by overcoming the lower elements, they found out that when that person glows bright and springs to life, that it's the same as a UFO, that a UFO produces from the torsion fields, and those are older models that use the torsion fields. They use it creates an electrogravitic effect, which is a spatiotemporal distortion, which means you can organize the perception of time or space to bend it and travel anywhere, or to put an experience before itself, or put yourself before an experience, and you manipulate time. They found that when the soul of a person awakens within the body, that the intentions of whatever flavor of a blueprint that was here at the beginning of the universe, or in other words, it's before the universe is in existence, it organizes that region of what we call space-time here, which is really just consciousness. It organizes it in time and energy, basically like what's going to happen and what's going to play out from there. So basically the soul is a time-traveling, reality-shaping or generating essence that exists before the universe is here, basically. But when the soul fully interacts with it, it carries these inherent changes. And this also ties into a lot of the control system, how with the less amount of people interacting in the understanding from the seat of the soul, a person with the computer system can go and organize things to make a whole big fake string of history where it doesn't look like we've been doing much, when in reality, the original people created realms, and that's how we got here in the first place. But we have this kind of like distortion. So I have this way of responding to the adherence to the contrast of duality or trauma and wholeness, or what to do in repetition as far as a plan with linear steps that go to a certain level, like a step up system. And even in these certain secret societies or some of the projects, these mystery schools, there is only, it's all imitation of the body, and the body as the universe. There's no one person or one path or one answer that fits for everyone. And so there's no linear step of what must be done and can be done and will be done in order to just snap everyone or anyone into what is called like the God state, where you're basically an immortal. If, you know, imagine a person with the highest degree of self-worth, and when it's imbalanced, it's like a person who's not very, they're full of themselves, and they're actually not very, you know, it's not very worth it to interact with those people. But if it's balanced, basically in love, they're not doing it because they want the attention that they could then give themselves and float their own boat, if you will, but it's because they want to give what they experience to the world, or show the world a way to experience the same things in themselves. And it's through that love, then that highest amount of self-worth is respective to others. But in the same sense, if something happens to that individual, it's like oil on a duck's back that it rolls off. And in that sense, the insults or on a rainy day or something like that, it's not the end of the world for them. And ultimately that's because on the outside of the pendulum, which is another, you know, secret society idea, which is the physical plane, everything in contrast has to have a beginning, a before and after. That's not in correlation with the overall, which is simply always been. It's eternal. There's no beginning and end. There's no sure, absolute, you know, completed version of it. It's just continuous. And the soul, in that sense of, I have all these ideas that we're building up of what Vidya said, how he goes into the void. Well, the soul is the one that goes to the void, goes to someplace, Korea, goes into Mexico. And no matter what has been, even if it's absolute darkness and nothingness, there's more to experience. And that's the soul. It automatically creates and unfolds more to experience. It doesn't end. But the idea is that when we're in suffering, we're on either end of the pendulum. We're in either end of the extreme. By resisting it, or you know, running from it, and it's not from it, but what it shows about ourselves, which is actually a vulnerability, if you will, or it's just it's a confusion, because we align with what could be in suffering, what could be confused, what could be not real. But that's the same as saying, you know, I have to look in the mirror because I'm not sure if I'm still here or not, or if I'll just see a plain, you know, a clearness that's not there. It's you don't need to do that. You're already there. You already know you're here. But the idea is then, the transcendence of that is finding the way to look at that without attaching to the suffering or the idea that wants to engage the ego, which feels that it must defend from certain experiences or concepts. The ego, what the ego defends itself from doesn't exist, because the ego isn't the actual being that exists. It's the eternal soul. And so then I had like a more thought out way of saying that, but it's through the liberation is through detaching from those extremes, finding neutrality. And eventually it's not a linear path of Jacob's ladder and this, that, and the other. They do have these steps that mapped out. And if you get through each one of them, by definition, you're the soul, because only a person would attach to the things, and only a soul would look at what is being known and be beyond it, because it maxes out what a person's human perception can handle. And so when the person is still there going, that was interesting, how'd you come up with that? Well, that's the person being embodied by the soul. And they're in the seat of the soul at that point. But that's like a bunch of, you'll never figure out what they actually do, because it's neither good nor bad or smart or stupid or hot nor cold. It's literally just a plethora of all things in existence. Is basically maxing out the experience potential of all universal states. And it makes the person know God, because whoever or whatever mind made all this knows everything that could be. And so in that sense, though, it's not about a specific path or you get a receipt for it that says you traversed 33 layers of the universe. It's a feeling, and the idea is it's like karma, which is a illusion, where you don't do a certain thing and reach a certain level. You get as close as you can consciously to saying, this is what I want, and this is what I was trying to hint at before. That is all, first and foremost, and finally, all you have to do is make the choice, the decision, and it's really a choice. Under the free will, you have to do it to identify with the soul and to seek the soul, which is within, instead of looking out for whatever satisfaction you think you're going to experience physically. All that, to make that choice and to live by it, requires free will, and to actually commit to it and move more into that requires a soul. And so the soul, it builds a connection, and then there's that flip-flop where then the awareness is no longer rooted in the body, but rooted in the higher, and it's like this kind of trans-dimensional antenna system happens. But all one does is get as close as they can through whatever metaphors, healing methods, there's modalities and ways of traversing pain and suffering, or the illusions of the mirror, and realizing the person in the mirror is just an illusion. And so there's situations you can get in with biological perceptions and things like that, and you realize and learn about it. But the idea is you just get as close as you can, and then you accept that it is what it is. And eventually, when that is done enough, you'll realize that you can't actually be in suffering. You can't actually be not you. You can't be anything but what you are, and that you are the soul, always have been the soul, can only be the soul, and that anything else is that type of a perceptual illusion. And once that is rooted, then your whole being changes, because there's a frequency shift. And literally, monks do this daily. Their white blood cell count goes up. The way their DNA interacts, basically the light transference of their DNA changes. And there's literally a spatio-temporal distortion, as there's energy within the body that is non-dual, and it doesn't seek or require expression in one biochemical or physical response or another. And meaning it's not swinging on the pendulum, it's just like a standing wave. It's not fluctuating, although it is. And that is, what people theorize, the grams of weight that leave when a person's soul leaves the body because they die. That's the cultivation of the seed that grows into the flower, which is an energetic system or construct. So there's no beginning or end to it. It's just something that is. And when they, but the main thing is the choice, the acceptance, by getting as close as you can until you can convince yourself. And then the absorbing and using of every challenge in any situation to continue to expand and grow, because that is the life of the soul. The soul dies from suffocation and stagnation. It lives through expansion and awareness. And in that sense, once you get to that, you want to express, you want to paint. Your life is the art of the soul at that point. And then the liberation, I lost my place. Wow. I basically said the expression, the expansion that occurs, it's weird, but it has to be sustained. It's like you expanded to a certain point, and the soul always continues. So next week, the finish point isn't there. because it's never there. Next week, you're gonna have to do the same thing. You have to continue to expand. And then what you use to expand, the way you didn't attach to certain ideals, the way you weren't, you didn't hold on to the insole, to the lower qualities, in 2 months, you're gonna have to do the same thing, only 3 times as much. And the expansion then begins to expand, and you get this continuing ratio of expansion because it doesn't actually ever end. And yeah, but then I think I confused myself, because it leads up to then expressing that, and that's the liberation more so. I think I didn't leave something, but I skewed the order of that and the way it's supposed to come out. But that's the general idea. And I had a better organization, but it deleted itself, and so I had to like retype it. And it started from Missy talking about the feeling of the fire within the chest, that this something is happening, but it's energetic, and it's kind of like based upon awareness or some change occurring, but it's not like you're growing another limb or something. Those are the subtle changes that are they mark basically you changing, and it's really all the perception of you as a physical being kind of becoming, it's put in its place basically as a concept in the lower perception of things, like an illusion, and then the actual sense or the feeling at that point of who you are, which is centered around the organ of feeling, if you will, the heart, and more so this assemblage or currency point of the body, the higher and lower. And that basically becomes some type of active processor for the entire energy of the person. And when that is maximized, now I'm rambling here, if that whole thing wasn't a ramble, but when it's maximized, one moves from consciousness, which is linear, contrast-based, duality. Basically, it's illusion. It's a program that once, there's enough data points, okay, then we have something we can go off of. But it only works in a specific realm with specific times and places with specific people. You ask a conscious mind a question about the universe, the cosmos, it doesn't have an answer. But once that you get maximally or close as you can, there's that frequency shift. And instead of you being contained in the body and the brain, or another secret society concept in the belly of the beast, where you're in the lower energy centers where it's desires and things like that, you move into the absolute center point, the convergence point or the assemblage point, and then from there there are expansions. There are these like they're strange bursts of energy that push one past all the barriers. And so there's really no end. But ultimately, that was what I was going to say. It's about the choice to seek the soul within, eventually getting to the point where you can then convince yourself that now when you accept it, it's going to last and it's going to mean something, and you just pretend, if you will. It's the same thing. And then the liberation is through not attaching to the lower ideals, because again, like the expansion, even in space time or something like that, there's a vacuum that exists for a split second as you move. And that's kind of like the ocean. If a ship is sinking and people, that's kind of like a gruesome example, but the Titanic and if they're on the surface, when the ship sinks, it sucks them down with it. So when your conscious mind rises into the view of the soul, and the soul begins to come down, the darkness or animalistic or lower aspects want to engage the consciousness in attachment to those ideals, because those are familiar. And so if you go off of what's familiar or what you think is familiar, it kind of wants to rope one back into that. And so it has to be continued. And ultimately it's about true liberation, because there is no way to experience suffering in the sense that we think. Now I'm just rambling, but I had it in a way that would have made sense, especially to Paige. But yeah, I'm going to work up a better way to say that in a few minutes.
Well, you explain it, and I wish you would hear that, the liberation of the soul, because the thing is, a lot of people are confusing. They want to liberate their mind somehow, They want to liberate their mind and put this in, like we said last time, Felicia, and we said it. If you try to do this with your head and put it into concept, or to put it into some sort of structural belief system, your state of being, your being in the joy, your being the creator, being the universe in expression, because that's who you are. And so when you try to limit yourself and put some mental perspective on who you are, your head's going to explode. We said that. And this is the thing in here. This has been maybe I'm still in. in this mood, but I'm gonna say something here that, you know, this thing, and I've tried to do this, and I worked with Earth Soul Group for what, 2 years now. And all I've been doing is wearing my heart on the sleeve and telling everybody what I'm going through, what's happening, what I'm seeing, what I'm not seeing, what I put together or didn't put together. But I shared my heart and my soul with Earth Soul Group for 2 years. I haven't got paid for it, 1 penny. And for people to do what they do to this day with all this toxic, ill energy and intent, for what? Have I ripped off any of you in Earth Soul Group? All I was saying to everybody from the day one, it's about you taking control of your reality. And then how we all worked on that together. And this is how we come in into people like Felicia, like Og, like Trudy. We all work together on this, and we bring our pieces to contribute to humanity. All I wanted to do with what I bring forward to humanity is I give my heart. I give my heart to people. I didn't want any satisfaction, because for me, it was joy. I was sharing my own path with everybody. What have I done to people to have this ill intent? Nothing, because this is the energy we're working with here. This is what's happening to humanity. This is where humanity is. In this, I don't know how to explain it. I don't even have words to explain how this energy feels and how people think that by anchoring in this toxic energy, that somehow they can liberate their mind.
And Lily,
Never be liberated that way. Never. Only your heart will liberate you. That's what I will tell everybody in Energy today. Only your heart will liberate you. I can't. Nobody can't. Nobody can. You can't. But you gotta find that heart first. So that's what I'm gonna say.
And Lily? Hello?
Yes.
What was actually transpiring today, you were going to speak very beautifully about the heart. And that's why that silence came through pure essence of being, because the heart is a reflection of pure essence of being. And the core to actually to anchor that energy, because now we have the fear grid has even been anchored into the living grid, which has never happened before. And people such as Paige, or the ones that we get with the comments that come from the mind, they don't even understand to what intensity this is gonna grow within the consciousness of humanity within the next few years. It's gonna be harder and harder for the matrix, because the matrix is a Pandora box and it was open. And we are going to have more of that, more, so much of it. And if if the living beings don't form a core group, yeah, by acknowledging each other in wholeness of being, in pure essence, in the nature of their true soul, they're missing the point.
Well, Felicia and Lily, you're absolutely right with speaking from the heart, but at the same time, you can't neglect the mind, because in truth, in reality, the human being is mind, body, and spirit, all unified, working in one. And a person who has achieved, let's say, quote, enlightenment, is one individual who has balanced mind, body, and spirit. Maybe some of us within this panel have achieved that. But then there are others who may not have, because they are being bombarded by forces that may not even be from other humans. And when some people appear to be experiencing stress, and that it engages their mind, you have to be humble to know that from where they are, they may be at a lower level than what you have achieved. Perhaps you yourself have achieved a complete balance of mind, body, and spirit, where another one has achieved
no, I'm not talking about mind, spirit, and body.
No,
I'm talking about heart.
No.
You can't go through levels of heart. You either express heart energy or you don't. That's the way I look at it.
Right, but
The
I guess
heart,
what I'm trying to say,
what I was going to talk about the heart today, let me see. It's not about mind, body, and soul, that mental construct of separation. I talk about being in the heart. For last 2 years, I never was interested in bringing any information forward that will give another mental construct to anything. All I ever wanted to do is bring clarity to heart energy.
Right, we know that.
That's what I'm doing. So let's not talk about being one with heart, soul, body. We're talking about heart and what
because
toxic energy. Hold on, let me finish, because I'm started now, I can't stop. What this ill energy, what is toxic energy is trying to do is trying to hurt our hearts. It's going after our hearts. And so today, like Felicia said, I was going to talk about this heart energy. And so
she was going to talk about the most beautiful thing that has ever existed. And I have to say that that concept of mind, body, and soul exists. That belongs to the old energy. Please trash it. It does not belong. You cannot take that. That's the new way of the new in the Western mind. The cultures, the indigenous cultures don't have that. It's not nowhere.
No, Felicia, I'm sorry, but I disagree. You're wrong.
Right.
It's mind, body, and spirit unified into one complete.
Yes, but the Western mind has made the concept of it. It's not.
No, I'm talking about a balance between Western mind and Eastern mind. What Lily says, what Lily is talking about is accurate. The whole discussion revolves around possibly some other person who wasn't understanding what you guys were talking about, which indicates that maybe her heart wasn't as developed as some of you other people have their heart developed. So when you notice that, that gives you the clue to provide information. You don't have to walk away unless you don't like what I'm saying. But if you don't like what I'm saying, that indicates that you feel that you're absolutely 100% right in what you believe and you don't want to hear other people's opinions. But I'm telling you that the totality of mind, body, and spirit right here, right now is the truth. Because the truth is you have a physical body and within you is a spirit. And
I'll see you later. Thank you very much, people. Bye-bye.
Well, there goes another one.
Are we still on?
I'm here.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, this is in a way, I mean, this is good in a way because, and Roy, I think you're totally right. I mean, we are still, I mean, path to integration is difficult. Path to integration is difficult. It's not easy, you know. And we all came together, you know. So we are more or less. I mean, we are all on the same path.
Yes.
So someone is gonna get there sooner. I mean, if there is no there, but someone is going maybe a little bit faster. Someone is going a little bit slower. But we are all here together, you know. And I mean, yeah, it's difficult. This is good, you know. I mean, this was always one of the also good point that all our talks were not scripted. So in that way, everything is a mirror, you know. Everything is a mirror for each one of us, and you know, I've been with Earth Soul Group for more than a year now, and actually I marveled at. I always felt accepted because I felt that other people in Earth Soul Group accepted my shortcomings, you know, and that was huge part of my healing, to feel accepted, no matter. And you know, I oftentimes wasn't on the same page with other people, you know, but I knew somehow that the intent in all of us was similar, or you know, that that this was gathering by intent, even if it is not, if we are not all on the same page, because it's impossible. Otherwise, we would be in some kind of another mechanic reality where we all like think or feel the same, or think same thoughts, or feel same feelings. So this is all part of like growing up, coming together. You know, accepting each other. Of course, you know, I'm not talking about malevolent intent, you know, sometimes it's obvious, but, you know, tolerating maybe different energetic points of view, or where people are different energetically, you know, I think it's a big part of our gathering, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, this is like, I mean, it's a good in a way, guys. You know, it's a good, you know, that as much as this silence was good. Actually, you know, I was thinking about those few seconds of silence, how we should maybe schedule another talk where it would be silent talk.
Well, you know, it's quite, and yeah, Milos, it's like we've got to learn to walk between the worlds. Like it's still, we're not just shifted. Everybody hasn't just all of a sudden shifted altogether. It's like it, and it's hard to explain, but like, I think each one of us realizes how it is when we're like, awakening or progressing in ourselves, and you feel that kind of like from your old world, like even say with your husband or your family, you kind of feel like, I know the way I was feeling like I was separating myself more and more from them. And there was like, I would go into go over to the neighbors or something for supper or something, and I would feel this division, and I would feel like I would feel kind of judgment within myself and stuff. And when I realized, it was when I saw that Chief Golden Light Eagle videos, and I saw that, oh wow, I can't judge. It's like in a different perspective that I'm seeing this, because I was so triggered from religion and everything before, and I'm like, it went boom like that on me, and I could see everything now through all different perspectives. That really helped me. So it's like, and I'm just speaking for myself. I have a very easy time because I had to go out in the world and come back all the time. I do that multiple times during the day when people come and see me in my art studio and stuff like that too. I learned to deal with them really, really easy and shift right between everything, because I'm now, it's all one thing to me. There's no division anymore. I don't know if you guys can get that.
It's all one process, one learning experience taking place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can learn from these experiences. We all probably can. No one, I'm really weird, I'll just say it. I see everything like a computer would with like parameters and variables and functions. If something around us initiates change in us that introduces a new outcome to what we intended, then we're giving our power away to whatever that is. At that master who has, everything rolls off, they don't even, react if somebody insults them or tries to do something in the same sense of his or her own mind that attempts to, grab it. They don't even respond. They just ignore it entirely, and it loses all power, and they see through it. And, if somebody like that wanted to, they can say something that goes right to the heart of the mind of that person and cracks the illusion. And, you can fight a war without fighting the war, or have a non-combative act of disabling somebody. And that's not obviously, we don't want to go back into like ancient times of wisdom warrior, kung fu masters destroying each other with like thought beams and stuff. But the idea is there that, the highest sense of stability is not even giving energy to that which you don't want to basically have control over you. But, that leads into and, represents that whatever is making a person mad is a treasure chest of information about who they are and where they are on their path, and how they can better basically prepare themselves so that things occur differently. Because you're never going to get to a point, especially in a physical body, it does not exist unless you like clone yourself and become a cyborg techno god or some type of other contraption where nothing is happening but everything is happening, and you're okay because you don't need to eat food and blah blah. You're never going to get to a point in the physical body where you can see perfectly exactly what's going to happen, and whatever you go into is going to turn out exactly how you intended it. The more you put energy into something, the more naturally, because it's like a spider's web or something, the place we're in, you're going to have undulations that go out in time and space, basically variables, and that come back and reverberate back into creating potentials and interference and introducing things. And so it's basically we're in a perceptual time-space consciousness trampoline. The more you bounce, the more likely somebody's going to end up getting launched into you and throw you off your trajectory. And again, you can get solid bounces where you just destroy whatever bumps in your path. You don't have to do that. You can just like shift and shimmy with the energy, and nothing even touches you if you don't want it to. But instead of a sumo wrestler, you can be a ballerina at that point, and you can do both if you really want to, and get the best of both worlds. And there's these pathways. It's like a radiant pathway instead of one. That's like the main thing about perception and the self and life and what's happening. It's not one linear trajectory of time that has these steps that must be attributed and like stuck to and with. There's just one thing, which is that you pick where you want to go and continually do that in the contrast, in the face, the confrontation of whatever life throws at you, whatever variables you dig up from this space-time system we're in, of a void and of these various interdimensional realities in the mind. We're in a subconscious. You're not in Earth space. We're filtering through Earth space so we can communicate here. We're actually in a subconscious mind, and we're presently in our own subconscious mind. And in that sense, it's kind of like a dream. And when you dream, it's reversed. You're actually going home, where everything is you. No matter how much you think you're in a dream with the sky and the ground, you're actually in you, and everything there is you. That's also the very true, honest, direct, like a dog wouldn't second guess that. We do, because we're conditioned from birth. But if you just had the simple question, it's like somebody, Frank Burrell on a talk talked about, if nobody told you what God was before, a certain age and formed the idea of it for you, and you had the idea to ask somebody, do you believe in God, or what is God to you? what would you say? You would probably end up saying something like, do you believe in, you know, the higher self, or do you believe yourself, you could be eternal, immortal at some point? It would be centered around you, and you as whatever that far out thing is supposed to be. You would naturally just assume it's you. In the same sense, if we're in our dream state and we see, well, there's an earth in my mind or soul or wherever I am, it's all there, everyone's there. You wouldn't sit there and say it's not real, it's fabricated, it's something deviated from reality. You would say that reality is within you, and what we see here is just an imitation of what you already are within yourself in what you could say is the true reality of the home world. This earth is a picture of what you are, in the actuality of what you are. You're not a person, you're not a single time or experience or anything. You're everything that could be narrowed down into a little, you know, telescope, as if it's looking at itself and getting just a slight view, which has its merits and meaning, because you can't really get a view without having a slight view, because it's just, you know, like common sense. If you're the all, you can't actually know you're the all, you just be it. And then the trick, the glory, is taking that limited linear view and again merging it with eternity, which can't happen. All you can do is give yourself the satisfaction of knowing that you got so close that you basically liberate yourself from that which holds you back and induces suffering, in the state of knowing you're not actually in that place, you know, as long as you're within a physical body. And at that point, you become frequency-wise the same in mind, or, you know, at that point, heart as the bio mind, or a bioprocessor, as with what you could conceive of as the mind of God, or the heart and soul of the omni being, the omniscience. And all that means is that the limitations, the challenges, don't actually serve, they don't function to hold a person. It's like the mind is the cage. Well, the liberation is when you can literally walk through the bars. And if you want, you go back in there and talk to the other prisoners and give them a chance to free their mind as well. You know, at that point, it means nothing to you. It's non-dual at that point. There's no fear. There's no insult by it. You just see it for what it is. And again, I'm glad this is working with these like weird reflexes, kind of like a guidance that happens with my mind. And it's really my feeling, because my mind gets overloaded, but if I could transfer the feeling, there would be no need for words, which they actually have technology to do that, but we have to learn how to get to that acceptance point before then, or the gig is up, there's nothing to learn. We figure it all out eventually and instantly. And imagine if you can go back and wipe your experience of using technology to do it, and what if you could figure it out by walking through the woods and just getting there? Okay, that's what you want. That's the, you know, that actually requires something. Plugging into a system is nothing. But now I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot it. It'll come back to me. Yeah, I can't even remember what I was going to say.
That when you're saying, when you're describing this, it also gets to a point where you can, it's like that saying, once you know, you had the ruby slippers all along.
I remember.
And as you come up against, or I shouldn't use the word against, but as you relate to people in your life, what's happened for me in the last couple of years, and even with more momentum in the last couple of months, has been interactions with family, with long-standing karmic sort of illusions and roles and things that have been long-standing. I'm starting to be able to you know, just stand in full awareness, and then when somebody is playing out something or saying something that is part of a program or a belief system or something, I'm totally aware of it, and can just like watch it unfolding, watch it happening, and be a neutral observer of that. But then, like you said, you can also have a response that sort of digs at that thorn or pulls out that thorn a little bit, so that that being can see into the truth, or can see through the illusion of it themselves, and maybe have a slightly different perspective, you know. And it may take, sometimes we have a conversation with somebody and they think about it for 3 days, and then when you meet that person again, something has shifted in them. And that's what I'm noticing now in my interactions, especially with family and people with these long-standing, you know, programs, really, is that they're starting to, I find people who have been very unconscious, or people who have been running these programs and it runs their whole life, and they're a victim about something, or they're you know, have jealousy or things, that have been long-standing parts of their beingness are starting to shift. I've noticed a lot of other people, you know, just in my environment and so on, are starting to actually have a different energy, have the ability to sort of maybe listen a little bit more than they would have been able to in the past, are opening up. And I think that this is happening to a lot of people, because I talk to a lot of people and they're also noticing it in other people as well. So I think that that's something that's really starting to happen for a lot of beings, is that we are all moving into this way of being, and we're all moving into the broader perception and the ability to be able to see the bigger picture is happening for even the most conscious people. That's what I've noticed. And I also just wanted to say that I really enjoy these calls. I think today, everything that worked out, everything that happened the way that it happened has merit and is really good for us all. It's about growing. It's about seeing one another. It's about knowing where we can sort of improve our communication. And another thing that I know is that the highest intention always wins. So, I mean, we have the ability to shift this. We are shifting it. And the people that I've met in our soul group, the people on this panel right now, I admire all of you, and I love you all. And I think that what you're doing here is so important. And this is just, you know, it's a battle of energies, I guess. And we have the ability to shift it moment to moment. Trudy, you tried to pick up the pieces and said, here, look at it like this with your circles there, and tried to come back and say, you know, we have the ability to look at things from a different perspective and to really go back over the material. We reached this place today where apparently Lily was going to provide one of the most beautiful, beneficial messages that she and Felicia had discussed and felt was very important. It didn't get to that point, but we know it's coming. We're moving into that. I wanted you all to know that I think that you're beautiful beings, and you know, I'm very uplifted by this call, even though, you know, it got a little bit offline. But I think that there's just so much potential here in this group for people to become more aware, to live from a point of awareness, and to just be in the process of creating more joy. And so what I'm saying is, like, my example was, in my life, I not only go about my day moving from inspiration rather than need, like I don't feel like I need to do anything, or I need to support anyone, or I need to say the right thing, or I need to have a job, or I need to do all of these things. I move from the point of, you know, what do I want to do next? How do I want to feel next? And each moment just leads into another moment of that. And so I move that way. And then as I'm moving that way, I also see other people around me from a different perspective, from a million perspectives, right? So every interaction, somebody, you know, could be presenting one thing or another, but how I respond to it is always going to be how I respond to it. And if I'm always moving from a place of joy and love and neutrality and just seeing it all as it unfolds, it gets so much easier to move through those situations or to move through those choices. It gets really actually quite easy. And so then you get to the place where you start to notice how you can actually change by the vibration that you're carrying, by the joy that you're having, by the awareness that you have. You can start to change those little things that, you know, the vibrations and energies that are coming at you a little sideways, or that somebody else is having a down day, or like in this situation here, just having the awareness of it and the awareness of our power to be able to say, well, you know, I don't have to respond to that. You know, I can just leave it on just because somebody hands you something doesn't mean you have to accept it, right? So you can continue to stay in your point of neutrality or your point of neutral observation and decide how you're going to react to whatever it is in the moment. And I think if we can keep that in mind, it doesn't matter what the situation is, what the instance is, we have those kinds of choices and that ability and to move from our highest point of perception and intention and hold our integrity. And once you start doing it in your life, like with the people who have always, you know, rubbed up against you or have friction with or whatever, once you start to see in your own life that you don't have that, the friction still will come at you. The friction will still try to get in, but it doesn't work because once you know, and you have the power. You've had the power all along. So that's my 2 cents.
That was beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say real quick what I forgot and then remembered. I usually remember right after. That was good. I like that. It's like an outpouring of how it all makes sense. You said a lot that is like kind of corresponding with what I wanted to look at and what I forgot. I like the last part, but before I forget again, what I was explaining with the ability to kind of be strong and the energy and whether we're reacting or whatever. So there's the idea, and if HRS is here, he'll know the answer. I can't remember if it's the pleroma or another aspect, but basically we're in what is kind of like a conceptual amniotic sac of generation of realms and experience. And so within that, we're in an area where some being created a concept of duality as like an experiment, a thought experiment. And apparently that's like the only failure of creation, because you can't use linearity and duality to get back into eternity. You can't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and get to 100 billion past 100 billion and continues. Never actually does it, never actually gets there. But it also, that means it's kind of like this is just a parlor trick for now. You know, to a cosmic being, it doesn't mean like, oh no, it's a failure or something like that. It means like this is kind of like a funny daydream that doesn't quite make sense in the end. But things do, but not in the way we think. It's an inversion. Anyway, which also that could mean that it's just this stage in history, physical history, there are thieves in power versus basically the actual human race. You know, we're not in power of this civilization, and many people in that sense are not in power of themselves. And so there's a correlation there. And the idea is that what HRS was talking about, which is, or in as Christine, I think, just was talking about how there are basically people who are not where we are, and as well HRS, and how to respond with that and what it means. According to the agnostic understanding, and as well certain, you know, you have certain experiences, you'll come to the same conclusion that if the soul is not in the body, then something must be guiding the body. It can't just go free. There's no free agent humans. And so if the soul is not there, then there is a collection of familiar spirits or spiritual essences. And so those are spirits that exist in a higher dimensional sense, but do not come from the highest point of existence, which is more or less outside of the physical plane and all the way at the highest, what you could call a dimensional, like jewel of creation, where that all possibilities extend from. Which the other point of this is that by definition, the original human is a plan to develop the impossible, which is, and that one is successful, which is the pathway from linearity as a physical being into an omniscient, omnipresent being, which should be impossible. How do you make I don't know, like one apple become all apples that ever existed in the physical, non-physical, dimensional? It doesn't make sense to set it up. But the way DNA works, basically there's a neutrality point that can happen that transcends all the possibilities of what the conscious mind experiences in those extremes, and the pendulum basically moves into neutrality in the middle. And there's something that's basically awakening. Everybody has their own description of what happens. You grow angel wings, you flip inside out, you ascend and become, you get sucked in a UFO. No one really knows, according to it, but your consciousness basically becomes impervious to the walls of the physical prison or dimension. But a person basically becomes one with God. That plan is real. And that's why we have this interplay of one side of pure awareness, compassion, which basically just sees unity in all things. And then the other side, which is literally a reflection of that one side that is actually there. The other side isn't actually there. It's just the shadow. And so in the Gnostic understanding, they call that the demiurge, that there is the core relation of existence and creation, and we're somewhere within a womb, dropped out of the womb aspect, but kind of like separated from that, and then in a kind of corner area, like playground, where somebody decided to enter into the possibility stream, basically life and death, the possibility of being who we are, but not being who we are, and all this confusion and stuff that comes about. And it's a test, a plan to go in there and then come out the other end. But, you know, so the whole point is that we think we can die here. And that's what this whole place is about. But the idea is when a person, for enough time or whatever, I don't know what the requirements are, there's like a depravity frequency level that when the choices that are made are not under the motivation of free will enough, basically to sustain a connection with what you could call the divine or the source, there's like a dropping out of energies, and then it inverts. And so that's what Earth and this universe is infected with. The Archon, Demiurge, sociopaths, perverts, murderers, whatever you want to call it, the people who are inherently seemingly formed under the formative process, the motivation of that anti-life, also called sometimes anti-human or anti-Christ properties, they're powered by what is called the demiurge. So the idea is that, and also this is represented on the physical plane, but it's happening on the higher plane. So the person that you're looking at, you're looking at me, well, I'm not me, I'm the soul. This soul doesn't look like this, so don't think you're talking to me either. You're talking to the soul, if I'm doing everything right. If you throw spaghetti at my face and it doesn't stick, then it's the soul. If I actually get offended, then I'm in the body consciousness and I'm therefore not me. That's the whole thing of this false construct that you can be me but not be, anyway. But the demiurge, so it's not the person. We don't need it going around and executing everybody that has demiurge spirits within them does nothing but releases those spirits into one big black ball of darkness in the atmosphere, and they come back and strike again. That's why a lot of the system is to contain them. That's like, why are they allowing this? Why does the government do this? And why are these societies just gathering up this darkness? Because if they don't gather it, it just goes wherever it wants. That's the whole point. It just goes wherever. Now they gather it and they have it all written down of who is who. They know who is who in the universe. The higher, the lower. They have hell. They have a hand map to hell. That's the whole point. Because if they didn't do that, no one would know. And it would just be wherever. And so it's like crazy, but they're the ones that both, they're managing it. And it leads somewhere. Because even everyone in that group knows you only get a certain amount of time, then playtime's over. If anyone who tries to continue during what is basically an ascension of the society where everybody suddenly starts to realize what's going on and they all want to take action, they all want change. Once that begins, they're not allowed to do anything. And if anyone in this demiurgic sense where they're literally bloodline families that consider themselves the sons of Satan, Belial, and anything that produces darkness or harbors darkness is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it must be once you're 6 years old and beyond. Jay Parker talks about that a lot. He's seen it. A lot of people have. So the point is, though, everyone even there knows there's a one true creator, and this being, non-being, whatever, has a plan, and humans are a part of that plan. And if anyone threatens the entirety of the plan, the end point, that the goal, and if basically they have playtime where you can have a delay and work out a alternate dimension where all that flies, but you're saying the whole time, but when the next phase begins, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm hands off. Because they all know something will happen, and they can see in their devices that the parameters change and they instantly get removed from time. And it's not as if they wake up and playing all nice and fresh in a new form. It's that they basically become the archontic, undead but unalive energy of the background radiation of the universe for all eternity. And so they know not to do that because they're going to undo themselves. So the government has all these people written down, mapped, and they do whatever they want, but they know as soon as this creative force begins to show itself within humanity, anyone that does anything to disrupt that is instantly removed from all of creation and all of time. And there's been parts where that occurs, and they can even track the souls, or what is an inverted soul. It's an electromagnetic spectrum, and it's reversed in the universe, and they go into Da'at, or hell, or the Sheol, where the oils in the center of the earth are. They go into a void where they can't communicate back with the world of the living or the world of the undead and the cyber gods. And they're basically trapped there. And they can momentarily take the person out from these underground bases, Sheol, hell, but within a certain amount of time, they disappear and dissolve and grade and go back. Because the whole system has a guide. It has a grand design, a grand plan, and nobody basically lasts pissing off the creator of that grand plan. And humans are the child, the brain child, if you will, more so the heart child of that plan. And that's the ascent back into that eternal state. The idea is, so it's not the person that is doing anything, but when the soul isn't awakened, and the way the magnetic trend of this world is, and people get pushed into motivations or one or the other of the media, basically there are what are called the demiurgic spirits, and those are based in ignorance. They don't know the self, they don't know the higher system, they don't know the plan, they don't basically know the creator or the true awareness or self-awareness of the soul. It's just ignorance incarnate. And so to wrap that up, the idea is a couple of things. I should have written down more what Christine said, but the highest intentions prevail. We've done tests with this. One of them comes up and their brain chip clone connected to the 11th dimension of inverted hell realm, where it's literally just like gnashing of teeth and stuff like that. And they do whatever they want, chop people up this and the other. And somebody comes in with the intentions not to react and beat them up, steal their knife away from them and stab them, and then another clone pops out. They just have love, and the demiurgic spirit, whatever it is, it's like a magnetic triangulation or an entanglement. It untangles, it dissolves in the presence of a being of love. When basically by loving that essence and not supporting it in the idea of love, but simply not attaching to, it's like a child who's pooping his pants, like Lily said, and throwing poop everywhere for attention. Seeing it for what it is and not supporting that, it doesn't kill it. It dissolves it because it was never there. It's the strangest thing, but that's how they get defeated. And so when a person has that intention or spirit and then they seek a response, having that response, like I said before, I went way too much and too long here. I was supposed to say that one line, but maybe you got more than initially asked for with the soul energy and request. When we give it that response, that's feeding into it. And so, like I said, ignoring it, like the master, that has the steadfast focus that can't be disrupted, he gets mooned and he doesn't even realize who did it until after his lesson was done. There's nothing that can distract the person. That's the answer. Reacting to it, it actually feeds into that cycle. And one of the things I forgot, which was towards Paige when I was trying to regurgitate what I was saying before, is that when the person's looking for themselves in this potential sea of distortion or illusion, if they don't know the language they're using, the programming of their mind in this system, then they're going to, because the mind is creating the path that we're experiencing. Where we feel is like where we're going to go. But that process of the mind seeing is creating reality. It's generating the next step of what we're doing. That's where there's an interplay between whether the mind is guiding it or the heart is guiding it. But if they're not seeing that that's what they're doing, and they're creating the desire of, I want to get whatever it is, liberation, but then they focus on the trauma or they focus on the fact that they don't have it, they recreate the same thing, and it's like a dog chasing its tail trying to get the treat. It's not going to get it. It's only going to end up biting himself, possibly losing a tail or a tip of a tail if you expend enough energy or grow so tired. And so that's the Ouroboros, where the mind is only capable of reflecting until we move out of that and realize it's just a hall of mirrors. If we put what's there as the mind of this reflector and then fill it with the concept of the mind being where we're going to find something, it's like putting two mirrors there and shining a laser. You get a whole bunch of stuff, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. It just is back and forth. It's the hall of mirrors. And so the idea is then moving into the knowledge of the self instead of seeking outward. And the simplicity of that is just, learn about yourself, focus on yourself, find out why you're doing what you're doing, and it begins to paint itself from there. Main idea I want to drive is that demiurge is kind of like the thieves of energy that build up. They're just shadow consciousness in this realm of polarity. And again, the polarization is the desire to attach to a certain frequency or reaction. That's polarization. That creates friction, which holds us back. The neutrality makes us basically streamlined to the point where it's also expression, whether it's sexual, emotional, mental, or spiritual is kind of it's non-dimensional. whichever way it is, it takes energy and converts it into an experience and an outcome. When there is no expression because you're not choosing, you're just observing, that's when the potential of energy actually becomes, and in that sense, remains as raw energy, and it never degrades or steps down into something the body can then experience. And that goes into, I'm not going to go any further because I'll tell you I can go for days, that goes into the understanding or the theory, or it could be a trap of consciousness to think this way, but that the bodies in the form that we're in now, being modified and carrying the possibility for death and things like that, are used by those discarnate entities because they came up with the plan of creating a race of beings who can fit a soul, or at least a portion of the soul, because no full soul comes here. That's why we can't fully remember what's going on, because the whole round, we turn into a sun. Earth, if everybody had their souls on Earth, Earth becomes the next sun. But the idea is that if you could get a soul in the being, in a body, but have it connected to these shadow realms enough of distortion, confusion, that the energy systems can siphon the energy out through rituals and trauma and things like that, and then it's stepped down in frequency enough for then these beings to then feed on our energy that we're giving out. Basically, you know, messing up our hair and poking us in the eyes and the nose and acting like the Three Stooges or something. On physical plane, that's annoying. Spiritual, our energy is going out in that experience if we engage through that. Basically, it's just like a trap system. That's one idea of it, but the idea is that when we're in that expression, engaging, we're taking the soul energy, which is far beyond their grasp, and bringing it and handing it to them. All right, I think that's it. Sandra. Christine, that was a good outpouring. I don't want anybody to forget that.
Thanks, Og. And I do completely understand what you mean as far as the demiurge and being. Okay, I'll just explain a little something about myself and my journey, and I won't take too long. I feel like I've been living my life backwards, and I know I've discussed this with a few of you here in the panel, and I feel like, and I have always felt like, I always carried my whole being with me from birth. I don't remember a time where I didn't feel like I wasn't multidimensional, like I didn't have a huge soul that reached for eons and eons, and I always have felt that way. So sometimes what we're talking about here in these groups is sort of circling back to that knowingness and that beingness, but I feel like I've always known that, and I've always brought all that potential options, opportunity, just the vast capacity of choices with me in lots of moments throughout my life. And as a child, especially, I went through a lot of trauma as a child. And I was born into a family situation that was very much a lot of trauma. So over time, even though I was this incredible being, and I knew that, like it was like an inner flame within me, and I had always had like a divine code or a divine order within me, which I knew what was right and I knew what was truth, and the people in my reality didn't operate in that way. Like I saw a lot of things that I didn't register with me as truth, like I'm a walking barometer, and I would see things happening, and as a child I couldn't do anything about them, and sometimes the trauma would get to me, and after years and years, that is how I got sidelined or sidetracked, or my energy got weakened and sort of been taken out a little bit out of where the potential that I could have been, let's say. And then and I think this happens to everybody to one degree or another. We all go through this sort of like a repression and suppression of all these emotions and energy, and somebody did this and I suffered that, and there's all this stuff, right? And it's something where then we become the food. We start playing out these programs. We start becoming the thing that happened to us. We start identifying with the negativity or the trauma. Maybe we even start producing those patterns in our own life with people around us because it's what we learned and what we know. And, you know, this is what I think happens to people over time, all of us, not just me, but many people. And this is how we became the food. This is how the demiurge gets in. And for many people as well, I think that we do have a divine order. We do have a divine code. We know what's right and wrong. And as life wears us down, like, so now let's say you're 30, let's say you're 40, whatever, and your marriage isn't working out, and you could be happier, and you've got stress up to your eyeballs, and, you know, you don't know what you're doing, and you get all messed up, and you're living largely on the subconscious and the unconscious because you're just running around and you're never really connecting to who you really are. You're never really connecting to your own feelings. This is where we become so weakened and so out of balance that this is where we start to make those decisions, and we know it. As soon as we do it, as soon as we get close to a decision that takes us out, where we go against what we know in our internal barometer is right. And that's really where the demiurge has the opportunity to get in there and make us really good food, I guess. And so I think the point that I'm trying to say is just that this is how I understand what you're saying, Og. This is how I see it, because I don't see, you know, a lot of probably the same things that you've seen, and you know, this has just been my little experience in my little life, which is huge. It's actually very huge. And so I'm trying to make what you're saying, Og, I guess, relatable for more people to understand how we can get sidelined, distracted, taken out, live largely in the subconscious and not be our full true selves. And then I also wanted to say this part because I think this is why this makes this conversation about the Hyperboreans, or the, you know, coming back into our fullness, coming back into our full potential, using all our gifts, using more than the 6 senses that we have. I think we all kind of have a memory of this within us, within the soul, at the cellular level even. We have a memory of this potential, and we want to circle back around to reviving it within ourselves, and connecting with it again. And I think it's what makes this conversation and this whole, you know, Hyperborean theme resonate with people. And I feel like we're so close. I think we're so close for so many people to being able to pinpoint how this all works, and so that people can grasp how they can come into their full control of their beingness and live in the moment, making decisions in the moment from integrity, from heart, with just by having the awareness of how it works. And you know, getting back in nature, any way that we can start to be able to connect and be true to ourselves, and to really start to think about that internal barometer. Like we are, I know I am anyway, I can't speak for everybody, but walking, you know, transmitters, walking barometers of everything that's around us. We are energy, we pick up energy and frequency from everything around us. So just by having these things in mind and moving through our day and you know, trying to hold the highest intention in every encounter, in every situation, will help to prove or to show to ourselves in each moment how we can put this into action, how we can see how it all works, how it plays out. And I'm just trying to help people from my perspective, and I hope that helps.
That is the actuality of it. You know, what you described is what everyone in humanity went through. And it also is like we're going backwards because what happened long ago. And so nobody, you know, is aware of that being what is guiding what we're doing, living in the subconscious, where these other rules are what we're living by because we think we have to feel a certain way because of whatever trauma happened to everyone. And I think you do a better job of explaining it in, you know, like, I don't know, like grounded terms than I do. Although, you know, I have my experience of a lot of things, but, and, you know, I like to think of a lot of cool information, but the idea that everyone's journey in that is the actual journey for humanity is the basis of that. And as well, the more a person has been compassionate and aware, the more they've gotten kicked, steamrolled by this civilization, and the more they're aware of that very essence. And so it's everybody that went through it. And one thing I'm not going to ramble here. I don't want to cut anybody off. But one thing I want to say, which helps with the demiurge thing, is that the shadow mind in this place is there to provide contrast, the background for the foreground of the conscious mind, which again, the whole system is a kind of a straw man puppet show system, but that's the purpose. It's not just, they're not there just like doing whatever. That's their purpose, even if it's that little bit of purpose to say, you know, hey, you exist because you're here and you feel compassion, and you know this because I'm over here doing this crazy stuff over there. Technically, it's not required, although, you know, it serves that purpose in that distorted sense. But that's the key to understanding that basically reacting to it, it's like reacting to a shadow and running. It creates the perception of being chased by the shadow. That's the whole point. So it's kind of, to put it in human terms, it's like a asshole, excuse my language, that is there like listening and asking questions, or an interviewer or something, and they're putting the front like they want to know something. But then when you explain it one way and they give you a response that's not, you know, they pretend like they don't know or they didn't get it and create another, you know, need for explanation, and you figure out they're just running you for a loop. The idea is if you react to it and you're just like, you know, stop it, and then you continue to try and go on the same schematic, they're going to do it again. And they're the person, the asshole, that knows they don't have to do that, but they don't have the substance in the background to sit there and be like, look, I'm just messing with you. I kind of understand what you're saying, blah, blah, but they're just going to sit there and completely waste the person's time. It doesn't make sense to us how a cosmic system could, you know, be infiltrated, or being could be motivated by that. But it just means there's a format for energy and information. And it also, again, it helps, but not the way they want, but it helps because we already know there's a soul. You don't need to see people going to wars and stuff like that. You don't even need that to be happy. But there's an idea for that, but it helps to know, to confirm that, well, there is a soul. There is a true power in that. There is a compassion, because there's the opposite of that, or the lack of that, which is theoretically the opposite conceptually, but it means there's actually nothing there. Shadow is not the opposite of light, it's the absence of light. There's no such thing as duality, hot and cold, shadow and light. There's only light. That's it. That's all that's there, expanding outward. Instead of what is right and left, it's actually moved the light, the right and the center, and then there's an inner and an outer, and it's radiant. It's not one or the other and binary. That's the system we're in. It's chopped off, so we have this narrow perception stream. But that's the idea, that everyone who sees this going on and realizing there's a group of beings that are doing this, it doesn't mean we run from it. It means we realize, well, we're the light that it runs away from when we choose to be in the self, the seat of the soul. And that is the answer, basically. That's also part of these projects. They found people who could witness what these beings were doing, because when it's just like trauma in a person's life, when you are aware of the memories, the experiences, the configuration of personality that is causing the suffering, causing the irrational fear or the connection correlation, once you are aware of it and you acknowledge it and say, oh, that's why it is, it loses its power. So when a person sees these beings, like I said before, and they don't respond and react, they just go, okay, you're done throwing your poop everywhere, they lose their power. It like flatlines them. I don't know how to explain it. And so that's part of the situation where they found people that can do that, and it's, you know, taking place in the world now. Doesn't mean it's said and done, but that gives structure to what's going on, the seemingly, you know, chaotic situation, according to this plan based upon self-awareness, knowledge, truth, harmony, compassion, and some type of truly constructive, you know, trajectory, instead of like more buildings and civilizations and money and things like that. All that is an abstraction in a game, but it means, you know, soul is returning, and that was really what this whole talk was and is about. I think, you know, we've covered a lot of that, and it's weird. It's just that even with the distortions, it's been covered, and that's like the actual expression of having to talk about what it is. It's somebody comes in and tries to disrupt it, and then you still talk about it, even using that. It's like a expression. It doesn't have to look pretty or feel pretty. It just has to be true, and that's what it is for this place and time and history and civilization and universe. Person's life is the image of that, and humanity as a whole is the image of that, the representation.
That's so beautifully said, on. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be true. I
drank 2 pots of coffee, if anybody was wondering, so my thoughts are like overloading.
Maybe it's time for Tristan to sing a song.
You're muted. I remembered one thing I wanted to say.
Felicia, you muted, and Og, don't forget that thing. And Felicia, you muted, and Trudy, I really would love to hear your song. So let's not forget about that.
That's what I was saying. How about her singing her song, because that song came from after she listened to Chief Golden Eagle, the first video. She created that song.
I think I heard a little bit. I feel like I have the memory of you singing something before.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
It's really rough because I'm not a singer. I just sing to my dogs. I don't sing out in public. And I do play a bit of a guitar, but I really have a hard time writing music. So it's just a cappella. And I don't know, like I usually sing better if I'm like singing in the kitchen, and I have been singing, so this is getting me on the spot, and I changed the ending a little bit. So if I start laughing, I won't do it like a Disney song, like I did the recording. I just do it different. Okay, I'll try it. I gotta put my glasses on. Okay, so just, it's rough, okay? Okay. The world is open. Okay, I can't get it. How did I start it again? Okay, the world is opening up. Or no, I got the wrong thing on it. Hold on a second. Somebody talk.
A little bit of nervousness. I can go in there. I just want to say.
You wanted to add something. Don't forget, you wanted to say something. So say it, and then Trudy will give you a little preparation time, darling.
Don't say that. I don't sit here and go into another length of history in my ramble. But there's something from the projects as well as certain societies. It's basically one always knows. So there's no real identification, but if one identifies a non-souled being, basically somebody who's not coming from the heart, coming from the compassion, coming from the knowledge of the self. Self is the knowledge of the self is the only knowledge. That's all there is. When they're not doing that, you don't actually have to pay attention to what they're saying in order to give a response. You just know from the frequency of the ideas they're presenting where they are at. It doesn't matter if they say, well, this is why I'm saying that, and this is why it makes sense to me. Somebody told them that. You know, thousands of years ago, somebody designed a system that told them that. That's all it is. That's why they're saying it. And at that point, don't speak to that part of the being, the ignorance, the shadow, whatever, the persona, the legal fiction. Speak to the soul. Speak to what is supposed to be there if you are to communicate with somebody who's actually going to be communicated with. Doing that actually causes the beginnings of awakenings as well. It kind of stresses the ego mind and makes them not know what's going on. But when one engages in the shadow with a game of Monopoly or something, that's when things really don't start to make sense at beginning or end, because it's an illusion. It's never going to give you what it's saying it is.
Awesome. Okay. I just had to get my music flow going there because I had to, okay, how did I do that? Because I didn't create any music and I don't have any music. So I'm like, okay, if I don't get the first bar right, then it throws the whole song off. Okay. The world is opening up. have for me, and I can see. Ooh, it is true. Now I am free, free to be me, simultaneity. I'm standing tall in the center as I become the pole. From my view, I see through simultaneity. The old grid crumbles in pieces, while many still hang on. I let go, 'cause I know simultaneity. Ooh, it is true. Now I am free, free to be, free to be, simultaneity. The past and future are with me as I flow in the now. I'm the mast holding fast simultaneity. Everything is present right before my eyes. The veil has lifted, I feel the shift, simultaneity. Ooh, it is true. Now I am free, free to be me, simultaneity. Grounded in the law of essence, I am free. There.
Oh my God, that's beautiful, Judy. So beautiful.
Like, it'd be nice to do like a play and have it on stage and somebody with like a great voice or whatever, like doing, you know.
Trudy, that was phenomenal. And your voice was extremely beautiful.
No, thank you.
Extremely beautiful. It was the resonance of that, you know, it came from the heart. It was amazing.
Yeah, it did.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
And if you made a play, it would be a play within a play, because this is, you know, the play, that's what this is. I like it's like, you know, that's where art comes from knowledge and engaging on a multi-dimensional level to the point where it's a knowledge being taught. It's like storytelling, all of it combined. And I don't know, it's like that could be like the basis of what evolves into any way of not roping the people, that's like a terrible idea, but we're all trying to come up with ways to engage the people. It's through those creations, you know, it's through art that does it. You know, it's something powerful when I can't formulate words to describe the potential for impact and the you know, the way it makes me feel. I just want to say one thing is that the way you said grounded in foundation, I haven't said that yet. It's written up there, that the whole idea of how to maintain and what to do, all in the blueprint, all that is a foundation in self-awareness that one continually comes from and goes forth from there. And they never, you know, deviate from the foundation, but it's never actually present. It's just a concept. It's just a willingness to continue learning regardless of the linear procession. And, when it's in an art form like that, and the harmonies, I don't know, when I can almost sing, but when, you know, like a woman sings and then everything's tied together, it's like that's the nature of the information being present in the physical realm. It's not like putting stuff and blocks on things. It's expression. So, yeah.
That's the raw power.
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah.
the other thing.
Real and raw. Real and raw.
The other thing is when that's done, that's like the monks and certain things, it clears those like demiurgic dum-dum parts of a person. It actually, the vibrations, the harmonies, they go in and do something. It disentangles these, I don't know, shadow parts. And it's really weird. You know, somebody who's like really either very clear, they'll like cry from the experience, or somebody who's really pent up and restricted, they'll cry. You'll see them physically moved because they were energetically, emotionally moved. I almost cried, but I didn't.
So now we are all in the heart. And that's exactly what this talk was going to be about, is the expression of our hearts. Because that's where the purity lies. If we want to be pure, then we want to be in our hearts, in the essence of who we are. That's just what this is all about for me. I really don't have much words to express the feelings, because it's so rich compared to the very limited language, and especially as much as limited it is for me. But I think that the heart expression is why we're even gathered together like this, is so we can hear beyond words, so we can hear those vibrations of heart in others. I know that's why I am here. My very first video that I made, I've said that this is what I just wanted to find other people's that wanted to express to their heart and find source within. So I thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I love you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily.
Can I say something?
Sorry, Adrian. Go ahead.
This is Reggie. I just, when Tree was singing. Hello?
Hi, Reggie.
No, it's all good, man. I mean, like when something, like when Trudy was singing, like I had this experience, this image, and it's something I've been working with last couple of days, with like this being in joy, and like the pole she was talking about, like being in center, and like the joy of being, or the ground of being, or whatever, and like all of this stuff we were talking about earlier, you know, the traumas or the experiences or whatever. I felt myself in this place, right? And so let's, in regards to like a trauma, like, so like joy like transmutes it. It's like it becomes something different. It's like I no longer interact with the stuff as like what it once was. And so I'm in this place, and all around me there are like these drawers that you could like pull out and push back in, and like they're all these experiences, but I interact with them as something else. And like what Og was talking about, like this sense of love or something, or playfulness. And like I'm in this room, and like all around me in this circle, like there's all of these drawers of my experience that I can pull out. But my relating to them out of a space of joy is like totally different. Like it's no longer about like trauma and ugliness or whatever. It's just something totally different that I master or something. And I just had that experience. It was like, and then I thought about like a living library. like what Felicia was talking about, like being in that place. That's what I experienced. So thank you, Trudy. Thank you so much. That's it. That's all I got.
Aw, thanks, Reggie.
Yeah.
It was very concise too. I'll take a much needed lesson.
Yeah, Reggie, and that joy you express, it's beautiful.
And our gathering today actually started that way with the joy of being. And Lily put forth a very strong intention before this, before she scheduled this this gathering. And in the living libraries, the templates were forming. And Lily's intent was Lily's intent with all together with all our hearts in the ESG family today was to deliver to humanity, not so much to us, because we already grounded and we've already been tasting the joy of being and being grounded in the living library. But today, through her intent, was to create the template so this joy of being can be anchored within the heart of humanity, because they don't have this template. They're feeling it, but they don't have it anywhere to anchor it. They feel it, they can talk about it, they can tell the beautiful stories. But if you don't have a template, it's the same like if you would like to bake the most beautiful and the most delicious cake, but you don't have a baking pan. And that's why we started to cry, and that's why we started to not be ourselves. I have not been like this in years. What you have seen today that happened to me, I can't even recall. I can't even recall. And I am not sad. I'm not sad. I'm not even upset. I am in so much. I am in so much. I'm melting. I am melting, and I am in wanting to let you know that just because that didn't happen, it really doesn't mean anything. It's just got postponed for humanity. They will receive this. And if they don't receive it through the ESG family, they will receive it through somebody else. And it's just that the heart of the ESG family is so open and is so beautiful. That's why all this is coming through them. That is why it's flowing so beautifully, and we don't have rough corners when we talk to each other. We just flow. One finishes the conversation and the other one picks it up, and we can go on and on and on and be together into foreverness. And to allow, we cannot go back and bring into our chat. It cannot be brought in because the energy of the dead persona of the matrix, because then the templates cannot be created. They will stop. They will stop because they are not a vibrational match to each other. We cannot, the energies cannot mix. They're not compatible. So not that it's anybody's fault, or it's just that compatibility did not take place. And yet, I am very sure that you can feel the beauty that what I'm saying. And I want to thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. It's actually technical as well. We're emitting a field that's going to, it's just like trees and lawn landscaping. It has to be grounded and then it has to be sustained. It's the same as a state of meditation with a person, where if they allow, you know, disruption, or if somebody targets them for disruption, sorry, yeah, their meditation is disrupted. You're unmuted, but your emotion is strong, so it's commendable. I cry all the time, but we could also say that we should strive to know what the emotion is telling us instead of feel like it's something oppressive, because I've met the beings that don't have emotion and the people that don't, and they're basically like vampires, where the only way to feel emotion is by basically hurting others. And so if you can be hurt, it means you're alive and you have a sense of compassion. And often, you know, we can set up fields conceptually where we can't be like merged with. If somebody tries to see it, we're basically invisible. But without that, and it's happening automatically, the person who's very sensitive and very pure, they're, you know, people, that's the kid on the playground that all the bullies find instantly somehow, and they're like poking him and throwing sticks at him or putting stuff in her hair or something like that. And because that's the only way they can perceive as feeling what they don't really have. And again, it's not a us versus them thing. I don't want to rant here, but the one other thing, I've ranted throughout this entire situation. This is really what the information, like I said before, I want to make this type of concepts, perspective, the self, the center, what I talk about, because that's what I've always known, just like I think Christine said, and a lot of people who know and have retained all from the previous timeline, the people that still feel or have compassion is because they retained it and actually traveled here. And there's an original civilization that these people are from. Probably everyone here is from. And it's just compassion. But the idea is that the joy is not happiness. Happiness requires an in for the out, and it's limited and goes away once that sensation and the circumstances are gone. Material, chemical, sensual, whatever it is, or, you know, egotistical, and the idea of getting attention. When people have ego and get attention, they feel good, it's because they're receiving the soul energy of those other people. That's where celebrity status and that whole system is an energy harvesting system. They're not stars, they're fallen stars and you know, fallen gods. And they're ran and held, operated, owned by wizards that know how to mind map the population and draw energy from them. And as well, for their exchange of being used through them, they give those beings an in to our society, where then they input those ideas and symbols and blueprints, and they've managed our society through that, not from laws and hammer with a little gavel. That doesn't do anything. It's through the children and the soul, the art, what we actually are, because that's speaking to the soul that programs society. And you see how effective it is. You know, Mockingbird is not what people think, but the idea is that the happiness is that joy. It requires nothing, because it's not actually a result of something that happens here. It's a result of the awareness of the self as more than the limited physical sense. It's the awareness of the self as the soul. And so it doesn't require logic or classification. In that sense, it really never begins or ends. It is always a happening, and joy is when that happening aligns, just happens to match up to our physical sense of self. And it comes into this realm. It's a beingness that enters us, and there's like a divine marriage in that sense. The marriage, actually, you know, the meeting and flirting is when we get the glimpses. The marriage is when we've been rooted, we've created that solid foundation, and we're not swaying from it. We're not letting anything push us off that path. And it does take time. And, you know, it is, you know, pretty annoying, to say the least, if you have the idea that you're doing this for a species in rooting this blueprint in. All you can do is sing it out and let the energy take hold for those who it's going to take hold of, and eventually it will, the higher intentions, you know, win out, prevail, so it will take hold. But when that's being disrupted, that is, you know, like it's not, nothing's really worth, it's worth crying over, but nothing is worth crying over, but nothing's not worth crying over. Everything is worth crying over. So it's equally beautiful and, you know, shocking in the same sense. But, you know, it's very serious. It's very serious to have that. And the idea is that there's not a military back. There is a military technically backing this, but we're not soldiers at war with guns. We're literally in a plane, not even battling, but conceptually around and with the ideas of compassion and awareness of the true self, and staying within that long enough to root a blueprint into humanity, which is literally the pouring out of the soul essence into the field of the earth, to the point where then it is always there and everything corresponds accordingly. And it's similar, it's a spiritual battle. It's similar to soldiers at war shooting, little projectiles at each other. So it's as serious as you can be, and there is a military backing this. But we didn't just sign out from the armory or the barracks and come out from that. It's just all, technically they're called free agents. These are beings that they're not stuck in a certain religious platform or hive mind according to these control groups that control everything. And everyone here that is doing this now came here to specifically perform this task, if you will, and it's to wake up the beings that thousands of years ago fell into the system and forgot basically the path out or who they are, which is, again, it's like Reggie said, and everyone's been saying, it's through joy and the acceptance of that and the continuation of that. And so I'm not going to rant, but I always end up doing it. Even in my videos where I record and I say, it's like, this will be 5-10 minutes, and it's like an hour and a half later, people seem to give good responses, though. That when faced with the non-self, the shadow, the ignorance, whatever, even insults and things like that, when one is truly strengthened in the foundation of this knowledge of the self as more than the body and therefore the soul, the non-self, the shadow, in relation correspondence to the light, if you will, being the soul, those are polarized, terminology, it only makes the light seem brighter. And so then a person trying to claw at your whole not ideology, but your beingness, when you're firmly rooted in that, it only strengthens you and makes you feel ultimately more joy. It's not always that simple, but eventually there's no problems, there's no suffering, and calling the mistakes problems and sufferings, things that we have to tackle or arrest. People be arrested for damn sure, but something that's going to be handled in a warlike fashion, that strengthens it, it feeds it, it makes it more of what it is, which is not something that we are doing in experiencing ourself, our true self. And our last concept is the circle. If there's a gap in the circle of physical consciousness linearity, we perceive a beginning and an end, a gap of life and death, whatever it is. From the center, there's no actual gap. Nothing changes. It's the degrees of separation that out here are extrapolated and expanded. In here, it's all one singularity point. So from that view, nothing ever actually is lost or changes. It's an illusion from this outer view, which is the extremes. When that radiant circle is broken into one slice at a time, that's where you get the binary streams of duality. And it's broken on that segment. Everything has to be organized into a linear function. I can't really finalize that concept, because getting into that, it's like an immaterial thing. It's basically just seeing from the heart and the compassion, instead of trying to form what we're experiencing into a category or a classification that matches more or less like a physical version of what is supposed to be, based upon how the conscious mind wants to make sense. Basically, the ego gets real weird when you have these concepts and these outpourings, and when we try and shape reality according to that ego and therefore ourself accordingly, it doesn't work, it doesn't fit. When we allow it to be what it is and know that the soul will never ever fully be able to fit in this reality, because the soul is bigger than this reality, and we accept that, then the suffering is gone. It's like we're trying to fit into a costume that's like way too small. Trying to continuously make it work doesn't really make sense. We accept that part of us is always going to be larger than we can conceive in this body, at least for this time. There's something that happens where we begin to accept, and once we do that, all this magical stuff happens where everything begins to work. And that's also the idea, is that it doesn't have a logical connection, cognitive function. It just becomes what it is, and eventually it becomes what it always was. And we figure out civilization, something magical happens. We realize, well, we never really had these diseases and the wars and all those things. They vibrate out of our perspective. As far as I could get into it without outlining a sci-fi channel show, but that's the idea. I feel like I was confusing there. Sorry.
Basically anchoring here the universal law of essence. is basically what we're trying to do here in this realm, as I understand, is one, by anchoring that universal law within us here, then we can anchor it in this plane. And that's what I think the other way of looking at this as the blueprint, soul blueprint, is that. And so by anchoring in essence, which is in the purity of soul, which is joy. In other ways, you can say it's joy, it's simple. But that's the center of pure soul, because that's the essence of human soul, is joy. And so this is how we create this blueprint, or anchoring this blueprint, is by being that. So that's I guess this heart expression is our essence expression. And so that's my part, sort of, but I can only do that through my heart. Can only express myself through my heart. So that's what I do. That's why I wear my heart on the sleeve. I don't even know. I don't have any more words.
So Lily, we're gonna get our baking pan back. I'm working on it. I'm working on it right now. I'm gonna get our baking pan back.
Well, by anchoring this with humanity, for humanity, then we give the foundation, or we become the bridge ourselves, because we bridge that first. And so we are then the bridge. And by anchoring that law of essence is what allows then here for a pure experience, which is earth experience, for the soul expression. And so we talked earlier about how we can communicate and communicate. It's because this is what's gonna anchor the evolution of this human soul expression. Because we haven't had an evolution. Humanity hasn't had an evolution. And this is a spiritual evolution that we're anchoring in. And once it's anchors, then it's gotta unravel. And if we can only imagine every possibility or anything that we ever imagined, if we can now ground it within our hearts, then we can express and create that reality. That's the way I look at it.
Well, you know, I think this chat really helped us to move forward. Like, you think what we've been through in this and just talking it through,
Yes.
overcame so many obstacles. We are very powerful beings.
Yes. We are. It's not something we need to really think too much about. It's like every moment, be in the now, meaning be in your heart. Just what would your heart do in this purity and essence and this universal love, or whatever you want to call this energy that is so pure. So every time you find that in your heart, every second, And then it's easy to act upon it. You don't have to think, you just act what your heart tells you to do at every moment. And that's the reality that is always in joy, because you're always in harmony with your heart. And you talk about all this realities. And right now, this is the other thing that we have the recognition. This is what we try to communicate. I think this is what I personally try to communicate to others, is that we are the creator beings. So even all of that diseases and all of the things, we can't stick in that because we created it out of ignorance or out of whatever. There is no point once you truly recognize that you are the creator being, then you anchor yourself in that self-responsibility for your creation, and you cannot be in the blame game anymore. There is just no blame anybody, because you are self-responsible creator being. And yes, it's like you can't just turn around and everything and say, okay, I'm gonna, blow all this out of my existence. It's a process. Sometimes it's painful, this recollaboration, and things happen, you don't know what's going on and things like that. But what I'm saying is that even through that process, because you're at the center of, and you just look around, you landed where you landed, and now you had that recognition. So now what you as a creator being do with it? The first one thing, you're not going to blame anybody, and you're going to take self-responsibility for each moment that you're in. And that's how it is to come back to heart and be in heart. Because if you come into now, you're standing in the center of your being, then you're in your heart, and your heart is what directs your life then. That's the way I see it. That's the way I see a human being always being in the heart. Because to me, for a long time, that was the solution. If everyone steps into the heart, there is going to be no suffering. And that's how we eliminate suffering. So, and you're right, Trudy. This chat and this conversation turned out even more beneficial than I even thought it would be. So
it's so real. It's so real to see how we can all come together. We're not all, collaborated and all that. Like, we're not all there with everything, and it's like, yet we can go through these things, and we are so together. Like, we are the grid. We are that. And so we're forming it strong and clear right now. It's amazing. I have a hard time expressing in words. I have to paint pictures and sing songs.
Yeah, okay. If anyone wants to share anything more. Oh.
Another song. It's time for another song. Can all of us sing a song that's very popular here in our beloved country, America, or one that is internationally known?
Okay, you want to start? Felicia.
I'm going to sing in Romanian, so I better just join you. If I start singing, yeah.
What song do you want to sing?
No, I was going to join you for the one that reflects our life here in America. If I start singing, I'm going to sing a Romanian song, but that it is not the point right now.
Okay.
Can you think of a joyful song like a Grassroots America that makes your heart sing along with it and brings joy of being? I can't think of it right now. I better go ask my husband. And then he will go and Google one and I can't think of it right now. Let me just think. Maybe anybody in the audience? It has our mind gone blank? Yes.
Don't worry, be happy.
Yes.
I got it right here.
Got it. Okay, Sandra. Thank you.
Oh, wrong. Wait, sorry, I'm on mute. Skip video, 2 seconds. There we go.
Yeah.
Or be happy.
Might want to sing it.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Be happy.
Be happy.
Every life we have some trouble. When you worry,
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Be happy.
Be happy.
I haven't figured out how to give you the visual yet.
It's awesome.
Be happy.
I don't hear Tennessee. Where are you?
I'm trying. I can't hear the song.
Come
I
on.
need to hear the rhythm, man. Turn it up.
Come on.
It's a full blast. Sorry.
your rent is late. You may have to let the gate. Don't worry.
Be happy.
Be happy. Don't worry, be happy.
Oh, yeah.
Be happy.
Be happy.
Oh, yes.
When you wear your face will frown, that will bring every frown. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry. Be happy now.
Be happy.
Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy.
That was awesome, Sandra. Thank you for playing that. That was awesome.
That actually felt good, man.
Yeah. You guys, it was
Good
that's
vibes.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go on, play another one.
Let's get going.
What's that? Oh yeah, is that Over the Rainbow?
Yes.
Sing it, play it. Love that song. It's one of my favorites.
This guy sings it better.
Yeah, the best. The Hawaiian guy.
Is.
Israel is. Brother is. rainbow.
I can hula.
Hula.
Like lemon drops on the
And I
over the rainbow.
Good vibes, man. Good vibes. Thank you.
Oh, vibes are beautiful. Thank you, guys.
You gonna close while the music's playing?
Ah, yeah, cha-cha. This is what living beings do. They can grant themselves and each other the joy of being, which the mind can never do.
Because the mind can never do that. We have to grant ourselves this right to step into the essence of who we are. We have to do it. Because the demiurge urge or whatever, all those energies, that's not what they want. They want to keep us away from that. So we have to grant ourselves the choice to step into our essence. So thank you everybody for today. This is an amazing experience. I'm going to be processing it for days. I have a feeling. So you may not hear from me for days after this. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I appreciate every one of you from the bottom of my heart. I love you all so much. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. You can grab a glass of wine and keep the music going.
Look at me. I don't know who is playing.
And if you guys want to still use the room, that's fine. If still some of you, I just need to take a little break and take the dogs out and stuff like that. But I thank you, everybody. And thank you for participating. Og, thank you for being here today. I want to personally say a lot of thanks to you for just being so grounded here, and for everyone that kept this heart energy expanded. I thank you so much. I feel your love. I feel so much. So thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Lily, and everybody.
Thank you, Lily, and everybody.
I got to get going, guys. Love you all.
Bye, Trudy. Thank you.
Love you all. Thank you so much.
Be happy.
Not me. Felicia.
You know, this is a daily occurrence in my life. I'm very everyday life like this. I go around the house and dance, and very spontaneously.
And Lily, the recording is still going. I don't know if you intended or if you knew it was on.
Yeah. Yes. So turn it off so people